So this stumbled across my timeline. This is from 50 Shades of Way. He says, former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, shares his thoughts on billionaires. I don't know when this video was recorded. I don't know if it's recent. I don't know if it's from a decade ago or whatever. But, man, this is an interesting clip. Let's listen and then I'll react.
There should not be one billionaire in America. None. And I'll tell you why. Because there is nobody that works hard enough to earn $1 billion. And my argument is this. The two jobs I did in my life that were physically the most demanding and mentally the most difficult that I ever did paid me the least amount of money. One was going through buds, and I challenge any billionaire to put up with 6 weeks of that shit at $62 every 2 weeks, you know? And the second was right before I went in the Navy. I had a job with the Minnesota Highway Department, couple bucks above minimum wage. I worked for the bridge crew, and you know what my job was? I worked a 4-day work week, 10 hours a day, so I could have Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the weekend. You're 18, of course you're going to do that. But I worked 40 hours in 4 days on the bridge crew, and guess what I did? Ran the 80-pound jackhammer. I challenge any billionaire to run the jackhammer for 40 hours 1 week and tell me he works harder than that. No, he doesn't. That's why I believe there should not be a billionaire in the world.
Damn. So, look, the argument he makes here, like, you hear this all the time from people who are on the right or people who are, you know, ardent capitalists. This argument of, like, the harder you work, the further you go. Like, if you want to do well, you want to make money, God bless. Just work hard. Just bust your ass, and you'll do it. You'll get from, you know, point A to point B, and that bank account will grow, and the sky's the limit. You'll keep climbing that economic ladder. That's the argument. I mean, I've certainly heard that a million times in my life. I mean, I feel like that's even one of the things that's taught to kids, right? When you're growing up, your parents like, yeah, you know, just work hard. You'll be able to get where you want to go. And he's just taking their logic and showing them the reality of it. So what he's saying is, look, the hardest jobs I've ever worked, it was actually the ones that paid the least. That's his personal experience, and you know what? I think a lot of people have had similar experiences. That the most taxing jobs I've ever done, where I had to work the hardest, paid me the least. And then usually, when you bring up that obvious counterpoint, it's sort of like you can't argue against that, right? Because it's true. People will then move the goalposts and be like, well, it's not necessarily the harder you work, the further you go. It's like the smarter you work, the further you go, or something, right? So then all of a sudden it's like, well, you have to be like special in order to do well and make money. Like, you have to be special intellectually in order to make a lot of money. But then, look, that begs a very serious question, which is, should that be the way it works, right? Should it only be like, you know, and this is even, I don't even think this is true, right? But like, only the mega geniuses make a lot of money. Is that the way it should work? It doesn't work like that, by the way, but assuming it was for a second, should that be the way? Are we all comfortable with that? So, you know, if you happen to be of average intelligence or just below average or just above average intelligence, should you be doomed to not be financially all that well off? It's almost like that, like, put the philosopher god kings in control. They'll handle everything. It's a very, like, primitive sort of feeling to create a system around that. You know what I mean? And again, like I said, I don't even think that's true. I think there's plenty of examples of billionaires who are kind of fucking idiots, right? And they've broadcast it to the world. I mean, what's that? The Home Depot co-founder guy who's really smug and he's got strong political opinions, but he's never said an accurate thing in his life. Honestly, Elon Musk comes across as not all that bright and like a 14-year-old Reddit poster, right? Like, there's so many examples. And then there's the people who have a lot of money, but they were just born into the money, right? Just lucky. They're part of the lucky sperm club, and they end up getting ahead. I mean, the classic example is Paris Hilton that everybody goes to, but it's not just her. I don't want to just beat up on her. There's a lot of them. And then there's other people like, you know, like fame. Just being famous gets you a lot of money. Like, you know, if you're a good actor in Hollywood, you can get a lot of money. And it's like, is that how it should work? If you're really good at pretending on camera, have we all decided, yeah, you should be worth $80 million because you can do that, but some guy who works 3 jobs and busts his ass can't even pay the bills or can barely pay the bills and take care of their kid? Does that system make sense to you? It just doesn't, like, it doesn't add up. We don't have a meritocracy. It is not the harder you work, the further you go. It's also not the smarter you are, the further you go. We have a system that is a mix of, like, inherited wealth and luck and chance and maybe a little bit of, sprinkle in a little bit of, like, intelligence gets you far, but it's more like Machiavellian, can you play the game type intelligence to get to the top. You know what I'm saying? So, look, for me, as somebody who's on the left, I'm a simple dude with simple solutions. I'm a big empiricist, so I look at what works and I like to say, that works, let's try that, right? And my take has always been, you have to give everybody a shot, right? You have to give everybody a chance. And the way you do that is to take care of the universal basics, make sure the basic needs are met, and then after that, I'm totally fine with this idea of competition and actually the harder you work, the further you go. So I definitely give everybody healthcare, definitely give everybody education, definitely give everybody a roof over their head and a meal in their stomach. Give people like a universal basic income so they can get by or at least have a chance to try to, you know, get somewhere in the future. You have to meet the basics. And I think that's what a lot of the Scandinavian countries have done really well. But look, the fact of the matter also is extreme wealth corrupts democratic systems. Because then the people with that wealth can basically buy the system, buy the politicians, buy the laws they want, and rig the whole system. So on the flip side of giving everybody an equal chance, you have to have steep taxes on the wealthy. Now, I'm not saying nobody should be able to get rich. I don't believe that. I think people should be able to get rich. But this extreme wealth that we're talking about, where some people are worth $100 billion, are you $100 billion? Like, you can't even conceptualize. You can't even spend that amount of money in one lifetime. And to his point, he's saying, look, I'll draw a line. I mean, I think his argument is like, you could sort of max out at $999 million, but nobody should be a billionaire. And I got to be honest, I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't. Because $999 million is such a ridiculous, colossal sum. It's such a colossal amount of money. You'd never be able to spend that. And by the way, if you are close to spending that or something, something's wrong with you. Go to a therapist, go get your life figured out, because that is some psychotic, sociopathic, totally selfish, narcissistic, crazy shit. $999 million, you're spending that. At the same time, we have 500,000 people who go bankrupt because of medical bills, 45,000 people who die because they don't have health care, 60 to 80% of this country living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's just, the wages aren't even keeping up with inflation. So all these people are struggling. And some people could just, I got $100 billion and I'm chilling over here. There are articles about at some point we're going to have a trillionaire. So let me ask you this. When we get the first trillionaire, there are going to be cucks and simps out there who are just like, oh, you wouldn't want to take away some of their money and tax them and redistribute, because then none of us will be able to dream that maybe we can be the next trillionaire. Just shut up. You cannot justify and rationalize these colossal differences. 26 rich people have more than half the world combined. More than 3.5 billion people combined. Does that make sense? Did they just work harder? Again, to get to his point, they did not. It's not even close. Don't fall for the propaganda. It's time to rethink the way we do stuff, because it can't keep going at this pace because it ain't sustainable. All right, guys, that's the show. I love y'all very much. Thank you, as always, for listening. You guys know the deal. Shameless plugs, yada, yada. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to that 2 million sub number now. We got a long climb ahead. Help a brother out. Hook a brother up. Click that bell icon so you get a notification every time a video drops. Everybody remember, you can support the show on Patreon. You can support the show on Substack, or you could just tip below here on YouTube. Would deeply, deeply appreciate that. We don't talk to advertisers. I don't read ads. I don't do any of that garbage. We do this small dollars, the way God intended. And remember, you can listen to the full show on Spotify if you want to listen to the audio version of the podcast. All right, guys, I love all of you. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody have a great rest of your day. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.